Hey guys, welcome back to Carib 21 Network, wherever in the world you're watching us from. So it is a little bit over a month now since the Trump administration, they are taking this new strategy on Cuba in terms of cutting off all their oil and natural gas and having the economy completely collapse. So the Canadian government now is stepping up to send $8 million of aid to the people of Cuba. Can the Cuban government survive this Trump administration? Let's talk about it. I believe it's sad that we live in a world where one country can do this to another country. The Cuban people have been suffering for over 60 years because of what the American government have been doing with this embargo. This is the longest running embargo in the history of humanity, and the Cuban people have managed to survive the embargo so far. But now the Trump administration, they are taking it a step further in terms of cutting off all the oil and gas to Cuba, and even going and threatening any country that would supply them with oil or natural gas to fuel their economy. And anyone that is comfortable with this, I think that is sad that people can be comfortable with the Trump administration doing this to the Cuban people. And I know that people are going to say, would you like to live in a communist country? And I've been asked that question many times, but the reality is not because you disagree with someone's governance, that means you are going to allow their people to suffer for decades. And Cuba is no different from China. Cuba is no different from the United Arab Emirates. There's a lot of countries within this world that the Americans have a really good relationship with, and those countries do not have democratic elections. So Cuba is no different. So this is just sad to see what the Americans are doing to the people of Cuba, because the reality is that the government of Cuba is not the one that will be suffering. It's the everyday man and woman in the street of Cuba. They are the one that will be suffering when they have no power in Cuba. When you take away all the oil and the natural gas and people cannot go out and work for a living, the people are going to suffer. The government of Cuba, they are in their palace and they will have resources to keep themselves going. But the everyday man and woman in Cuba, they are going to be the one that's suffering. So the Canadian government, as I said, the Canadian government is stepping up with $8 million in food and supplies for Cuba. They were stopped from sending oil. Mexico was stopped from sending oil, so they can't send oil or natural gas, but they can sell food and first aid supply to Cuba. So how long can the people of Cuba survive this when the people of Cuba, it was announced that they only have 1 month left of oil and natural gas before the country goes completely dark. So this report is coming out of Canada, courtesy of Global News, where the Canadian government is sending in help for the people of Cuba.
With economic collapse looming, some Cubans say they may be forced to leave the country they love.
Como decimos los cubanos.
This man says it's hard to get to work, it's hard to get food, and it's hard to get internet access.
Cuba is right now a failed nation.
It's been nearly a month since the U.S. shut off the flow of oil to Cuba, blocking shipments from chief suppliers Venezuela and Mexico, while threatening tariffs on any country stepping in to fill the void.
The humanitarian situation in Cuba is becoming quite grave and quite serious, and so Canada is stepping up.
The federal government is pledging $8 million towards food for Cuban people, but humanitarian groups are already having trouble getting aid into the country due to the fuel shortage, which Cuba's ambassador to Canada suggested is the United States' goal.
The objective of this oil blockade is clear: to create a humanitarian crisis and try to force a regime change.
The U.S. captured Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro last month and is now authorizing American companies to resell Venezuelan oil to Cuba's private sector, while still blocking all other oil shipments to the Cuban government.
We have our big oil companies going in. They're going to be taking out the oil and selling the oil for a lot of money, and Venezuela is going to get a big part of that money.
Good to see you.
Caribbean leaders meeting with U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio to discuss American foreign policy in the region are calling for a de-escalation.
We believe there is space, perhaps more space now than in years past, for pragmatic engagement that protects the Cuban people.
That space may be narrow, with the Trump administration showing no signs of deviating from their hardline approach to Cuba, Donna, as the situation on the ground becomes even more dire.
And the reason why this is so sad is that the Americans have had this embargo on Cuba for over 60 years, and Cuba have managed to survive this embargo. When you go to Cuba, Cuba is not the Cuba that the Americans tell you on TV. When you listen to what people say and you go to Cuba, it's a completely different thing. The Cuban people are some of the most resilient people that I've ever met. When you go to Cuba and you experience the beauty of Cuba, the hospitality of Cuba, even though they have little or nothing, they are still able to be loving and hospitable to their visitors. And Cuba, for people that know me, know that Cuba is pretty much my favorite place that I've ever visited outside of Jamaica. And it's just sad to see that they are doing this to the Cuban people, because what the Trump administration is pretty much saying right now is that they are willing for Cuba to collapse. They are willing for Cuba to become like Haiti, because, as I said, they have had this embargo for over 60 years. And when we had the opportunity to visit Cuba, Cuba was in the top 10 of most safest country in the world to visit. Me and my family, we were able to walk around and we were able to experience Cuba without feeling like threatened, feeling that we're going to experience any violence or anybody is going to attack us. That is how safe Cuba was. But the Trump administration, they are willing to take away oil, take away natural gas, plunge this country into darkness and to push them into like a civil war, just because they want a change of government. And that just don't make any sense, because a Cuba, just imagine Cuba in the same hemisphere with Haiti, when Haiti right now is a war zone, and Cuba has managed for decades to be a safe country, despite what the embargo, despite what the Americans have done to them for so long. They have managed to be one of the safest country in the world. And now my fear is that if this goes through and the Cuban government, if the American topple the Cuban government and you have all those Cuban soldiers and people leave the army with their guns and everything, what is going to happen to Cuba? Is it worth it for Cuba to become a next Haiti in the hemisphere? It is just not making any sense to me right now. And now we're getting reports that the Cuban military encountered 10 Cuban Americans on a speedboat heading into Cuba to launch an attack. And this is just getting from worse to worse.
We're learning more this morning about a deadly incident in Cuban waters involving people on board a boat registered in the United States. Multiple U.S. government agencies are now investigating.
A situation that we're monitoring. Hopefully, it's not as bad as we fear it could be, but can't say more because I just don't know more.
Cuba says its soldiers killed 4 people on board the boat, claiming the soldiers were fired on first. It says 6 others were injured and taken to hospital for treatment. Now, all this comes at a time of already heightened tensions between the U.S. and Cuba, with an American blockade starving Cuba of oil, of course, which powers its electrical grid. Linda, let's talk about who was on board this boat. It looks like they came from the U.S., but you know more.
So this is from the Cuban government saying that the people, all 10 people who were on that boat were were Cubans living in the United States. So U.S. residents, but Cuban citizens. They say they were trying to infiltrate the island, carry out some criminal activity. So we know right now, basically, this was a speedboat that was registered in Florida that entered Cuban waters yesterday and then opened fire on Cuban soldiers. Cuban soldiers retaliated against them. One soldier was wounded. There were 4 people on that boat who were killed and 6 others wounded. So now Cuba's government releasing the identities of the 6 survivors, 1 person who was killed, 3 others have not been identified, but 1 other person was also arrested, an 11th person that had confessed to being part of some alleged plot here.
I want to talk about that plot. It is the claims from the Cubans, and the Americans are doing their own investigation. But what is What is the argument about what these individuals were up to?
Yeah, so what they're saying is essentially that they were there to carry out some sort of terrorist activity, that they have a history of criminal and violent activity. One of the 4 dead, we are learning from his brother, who spoke to the Associated Press, gave us a little bit more information. He said his brother was a truck driver who had lived in the U.S. for more than 20 years, saying that he was, in fact, an American citizen, and said that he had this sort of obsessive and what he says, quote, diabolical quest for Cuba's freedom, telling that to the Associated Press. Now, the Interior Ministry in Cuba says they were loaded down with weapons. And earlier you spoke with John Kirk, who's a professor emeritus of Latin American Studies, and he looked into that side of things a little bit more.
The people who were killed or arrested yesterday, they came with Molotov cocktails, assault weapons, pistols, camouflage gear. So this clearly was intended as a military mission. It remains to be seen how the Trump administration reacts to it.
We have heard from the U.S. Secretary of State only a little bit on this, but Marco Rubio is someone who has called for regime change in Cuba for decades. He's taking a more moderate tone at this early point.
Yeah, he's saying essentially he's not going to rely on what he's hearing from the Cubans, that he's going to do his own investigation into this, and particularly into whether the victims were American citizens or permanent residents. Here's a little bit more from what we heard from Rubio.
We have various different elements of the U.S. government that are trying to verify elements of the story based on what's been provided to us now. The majority of the facts being publicly reported are those by the information provided by the Cubans. We will verify that independently, and as we gather more information, then we'll be prepared to respond accordingly.
So, of course, this threatens to sort of ramp up already a tense situation between the U.S. and Cuba following the arrest of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Of course, the situation with the U.S. blocking oil shipments from Venezuela, then threatening tariffs on anyone else that sends oil over to Cuba. In light of all of this, in a statement, the ministry said Cuba's government was safeguarding their sovereignty and ensuring stability in the region. We know the U.S. has said through the U.S. Attorney's Office for Southern District of Florida, Florida's Attorney General, saying that they're doing their own investigation as well. They've sent the Coast Guard to the area, so they are out there keeping tabs on things. Yeah,
and the U.S. Coast Guard is armed, so potential for more to happen there. All right, Linda, thank you very much.
Before I continue, I would like to thank Stylish 3Ts for sponsoring today's video. For the best in premium streetwear inspired by Caribbean and African roots, go check them out on their website, and when you enter Carib21/10, you will receive 10% on your next order. The link will be in the comment section. Just go click the link and get your discount today. We're the culture, live the statement. So this is what the website looks like. It is very easy to use, very user-friendly. So for premium streetwear inspired by Caribbean and African roots, go check them out, and don't forget to use your promo code Carib21/10 for 10% off your next purchase. So go out and support and thank me later. So it is very clear to me that this Trump administration, Marco Rubio, that they are willing for Cuba to collapse, taking away the one thing that will keep the country going, their oil and natural gas, to keep energy going. You are willing for Cuba to collapse. And we saw the same thing with Haiti, and the Americans cannot get control of Haiti. So just imagine Haiti and Cuba within the same hemisphere. And I just believe that there's a better way to do this, that they can deal with Cuba with diplomacy. The Cuban government have always been willing to sit down and talk. And even recently, the president said, look, we are willing to sit down and talk. The only thing that is not on the table is our freedom or democracy. And we know how Cuba feel about their freedom. And why would the Americans want to take away the Cuban freedom? The Cubans that exiled Cuba back in the 60s, most of those people, they're either dead or they're either too old. I don't know why the Americans, they're keeping this grudge for over 60 years when they can easily sit down at the table, talk with the Cuban government the same way the Americans were able to dialogue with the Vietnamese after the Vietnam War, the same way the Americans were able to dialogue with the Japanese after Pearl Harbor, they should be able to sit down and have peaceful dialogue with the Cuban government. And as I said, the Cuban government have always expressed that they are willing to talk. The only thing they're not willing to compromise is their freedom. And why would the Americans want the Cubans to give up their freedom? So guys, sound off in the comment section. Let me know your thoughts on this one. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing content. And remember, peace. I'm out.